political statement. You're wrong. It's just because I was in Dubai and it's kind of cool and comfortable. But if you think I'm doing it to make fun of Middle Eastern culture, you're even more wrong. And I will say this, that as I said in the fail panel, if you get your news about the Middle East from Western media sources, you fail. And that said, let's talk about PCI, because there are two intelligent and articulate people who have stood up in front of the microphone, and the first of them has this to say.
I think it's fair to say that though PCI is a security policy, is a security guideline, it's definitely not the best one out there by far. For the vast majority of us, type 3 and 4, is it fair to say with limited funds, pick another better security thing to go by? Pick the SANS Top 20, for example, to Dave I'm talking to pretty much. Do the bare minimum to make PCI happy and then spend your money actually solving security. Is that a fair thing to take away from this?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, good.
In our report, and one of the things that the data allowed us to do was say, okay, yeah, you know what? Here are basic, for the first time in the industry, really, best practices supported by data, right? So here are a handful of things that you can do. And again, it's not just the Verizon report, there's a trust rate report and so forth. So I would go seek the data versus seek yet another standard. The SANS thing is great, right? It's expert opinion, blah, blah, blah.
But remember, though, you need to be meta-compliant with a number of standards simultaneously. Whatever your org is, you've got PCI plus something else, plus something else, plus something else, plus something else. And that Venn diagram is your unique and special snowflake.
Sure.
He
was talking 3 and 4, and I was overgeneralizing about the simplicity of their Venn diagram.
You overgeneralized?
And for the 3 and 4s, it's much better. It's often better to outsource a lot of that.
If it's self-assessment, lie through your
So here's what I've seen as a QSA and just as a generic security guy in a lot of capacities. And feel free to disagree with me because I'm in elbow range for a couple of you guys. But I prefer more prescriptive, technical, tactical standards. Especially as a level 3-4, I wouldn't say go latch on to ISO 27000 as a reasonable approach to getting your shit together. I'd say you know what. PCI is pretty good, actually, for you. Or the SANS Top 20 would be pretty good for you. Something that says, hey, it would be really freaking awesome if you had an IDS, and here's some examples of things that work. Or, hey, guess what? Network-based access controls are okay, and you should have some. Those are reasonable things to kind of go around. But I think we could probably have a series of jokes in this room on, what is quote-unquote best practices.
There's no such thing.
Hello.
I figured it out. It's common practice.
It's subjective, right?
No, it's common. If the other guy's doing it, then that's what I'll do. I won't do what's best because that costs an extra 2%, and I'm not willing to spend that 2% because the other guy's not doing it. You're in a situation where people are saying, well, if Citibank's not doing it, why should I do it?
True, but I think we all saw the metrics from Alex where only 19% are doing it right.
Ouch.
Or per PCI. So maybe that's wrong. Yeah.
So,
I'm seeing a lot of folks
your organization may be that unique and special snowflake that does need to take into consideration shit like 27001 or 27005.
Agreed.
You missed it.
I thought you went into a seizure whenever I said 27005.
Come on. Do the dance.
Come on.
You know it. You love it. Yes.
Last one.
There we go. Question.
All right.
So I've had kind of the opportunity to have worked in different spectrums, doing the pen testing, working with a consulting firm.
You need to fillet these microphones to be heard?
Yeah, could you get it? Yeah, a little, thank you. It is tough to hear it up here.
I'm also kind of short. So I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different atmospheres. So I worked with a consulting firm where we hired really gray hair consultants and did a lot of really good stuff. We did the PCI consulting, so we tried to do it the right way. And I've been on the card side and understand the merchant side. And so I've had a lot of different experiences. I guess my question to you guys is, we talk about the infrastructure is screwed, and I don't disagree, it's kind of screwed. But the credit card companies and various other entities have come up with technologies, such as near field, right, to be able to do no card number, to be able to do different ways of not presenting the same way we do today. But the problem is, it's a global scale problem. And so I guess my question is, do you have, even from a straw man perspective, what you think would be the solution, knowing that it's not the cards, it's not the merchants, it's not the processors, not the
watch
networks,
this panel.
it's everything.
Watch the recording of this panel from last year. I spent 10 minutes describing how to fix the problem. It would take less than 2 years to convert 99+% by using economic incentives and disincentives to solve the problem.
So that's what I'm wondering. So is it a proposition that it requires government intervention? And I think partially it does.
I think
the only way Canada.
Well, no.
is
The government intervention isn't actually government intervention. It's weird. What we need to do is redefine usury, not as a fixed percentage, but as a spread against the overnight rate. Once we do that, the problem will be a self-hammering nail. You'll set it down on the desk, and it'll just go thunk right in.
And remember, this is in response to government intervention.
Unfortunately, though, you're dealing with greed across an entire spectrum of industries, not just banking, not just merchant, but across the entire spectrum of industries.
Yeah.
So when I was doing PCI assessments, we couldn't get the merchants to actually allow us to do the right thing. Period. And so it isn't just one industry or other. I mean, it's a global perspective.
But there's no economic incentive, right? Right. This goes back to that whole does everybody speed question that somebody talked about. The economic incentive isn't there for me to stop speeding. If they fixed it so that if you do 56 miles an hour in the United States, the fine is $1 million, lose your car, lose your license for the rest of your life, nobody's going to speed.
It's like the Warren Buffett quote, I know how to get a balanced budget, right? The way you get a balanced budget in the U.S. is you make a law that says, hey, if you don't pass a balanced budget, you're not up for re-election.
Again, we're dealing with government intervention, so you're dealing with contracting lobbyists and everything else.
No, but the economic incentive-disincentive model is so simple. And I think part of the reason that we have trouble with it is because we like complicated shit. It's very simple. You just say, you know what, if you want to use the old system, that's fine. We leave all of the rates in place the way they are now, or maybe we jack them up a little bit for both consumer, card processor, and merchant, and issuing bank, and everybody. And then we issue a new system that is unconnected to the old system. It does not use credit card numbers. The credit card doesn't even look like a credit card anymore. Whatever the hell we do something else, something new. Maybe it's one-time pads because we can store several billion of those on a card now. Right. Whatever it is, and you make it very simple. It has a new fee structure. The new fee structure is dead easy. It's fixed price per transaction. It's cheaper by orders of magnitude, and you fix the risk to put the risk right where it fucking belongs, which is back on the cards.
Right? You're just describing
a separate entire global infrastructure outside of interconnect and everything.
Well,
absolutely.
And that's just one solution. There are multiple solutions, right? We could keep the same broken infrastructure and start implementing risk pooling. There's a million different ways to do it, but unfortunately, we acted like security is an engineering problem. So what did we do? We came up with a bunch of engineering answers to a non-engineering problem.
I mean, we had a lot of debates last year on his particular solution, but the part I like about his solution is you can incentivize anything. What we do is we have to make it really expensive to do it a fucked up way.
Yeah. So quit with the backward compatibility. Why do we have raised numbers on the fucking cards anymore? How many people have used a shik machine lately?
This year.
Right? And you know what? Probably
that's the point. A lot of merchants still do. So you're
probably
not
in the riskiest environments, though.
Yeah.
So you disincentive that. You say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to put in two systems. And watch how quickly that old system withers and dies. It'll stick around for 40 years. You'll still find it in weird freaking corners of society. But you know what?
Point is,
everybody will be using the one system, the good one.
Who disincentivizes it? I mean, because you're not going to get
the card brands.
The card brands or the processors.
The card brands are just, they're not incentivized to disincentivize it because
they're
not the ones losing the money. The merchants are.
And one of the things that that comes up is why would they provide a discount? And we have to talk about the card brands. They're not going to provide a discount. They're going to charge a penalty. It's greed. It's about greed. Greed is good. It's capitalist society.
That's what I'm saying.
But I mean, it's like if you boil it down, a square, a dongle that you could jam into your iPod or Android. What could possibly go wrong with that? They charge more for card not present. I mean, that's a simple thing that we accept now. But can we grab one more question? This is going on so long. I'm almost sober, so we need to.
But remember, though, the cards do have an incentive. They want to be the currency. That's their incentive.
Absolutely.
And to get to that incentive, they need to convert more people to using cards. They need to convince the United States to stop moving little tiny slips of paper around and calling that money. And you know what? It's not going to be that hard to do if you make it so that when you walk into the store, they don't hand you one price for cash and one price for credit. You know, you drive by every gas station on the goddamn interstate, there's 2 different gas prices. Make that shit go away, and it'll go away fast. So fast that people can't look at it rationally. And I hate to be that foreign asshole, but God, people, stop watching Fox News and CNN and look at your own world from the outside. Because this country is functionally insane. And you're all okay with it. And you need to
still
look
have
at
to,
it.
if you're going to have lenders, we'll say lenders, credit card companies have lenders, then they have to somehow make money off of those transactions. Look, I'm not trying to advocate one way or the other. I'm just saying the reason those gas stations are doing that is because they pay a fee for people to be able to take their cards and whatnot. So that's why they're doing it. How could you possibly take away the ability for the companies who are making those loans to make that money? And how are you going to detach
there's more money in fixed transaction cost and high transaction volume than there is in
it's still a cost. That's my point. Then there is a cost other than cash.
Than there is in percentage against unbelievable amounts of fraud risk. Yeah. And you know what?
Yeah.
There's a cost in handling cash, and most people don't realize this. If you're working in org and you're handling dollar bills, you're losing money every fucking day because dollar bills are sticky. And they smell
grab
bad.
one more. Thank you very much.
Get coins.
We're easy to find. We're all like media whores or whatever the hell. All right. So I'm a media whore, and I'll find anybody that you can't find on this panel, but you can find them. You, sir, look intelligent and articulate and sexy. I said almost sober.
So one of the topics you only sort of touched on
Fillet the microphone. We can't hear you.
Was the chosen few. So as someone who was a security vendor for years and now does consulting work for security vendors, there's clearly a subset of technologies, depending on the count, 11 or so that are acquired by PCI. And by my count, I think Gartner covered 160 subcategories of security. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on where those other 149 security categories are going to be over the next couple of years, since PCI 2.0 is where it is for 3 more exciting years. So what for the other all the folks here focused on innovation, where do you see how does this impact them over the next few years?
So since I wrote that article on the chosen few, I will take a first stab. But the assumption we make is that those 11 things are the best 11 things out of the 189 that he said. And by my assessment on perceived efficacy or NSS Test Labs efficacy, they're some of our worst ones. So every time you're picking and funding an inferior technology from the dinosaur age over something that is better, it's a mistake. And it's a mistake forced by the compliance stuff. Now, I also don't think on the other side, I'm not advocating that everything new and shiny and blinky is better. Some of those things should just go the hell away. By my count, out of those 158 or so, there's probably 30 total that are usually good if you do the cross-section of the things that people need to do. But we haven't done separated the wheat from the chaff to look at, of these things against modern attacks in virtual environments, cloud environments, outsourced cloud service provider environments with LulzSec-type adversaries or APT kitten-killing type adversaries. We haven't done a vetting process. We're just taking something that a bunch of people thought was a good idea in 2003 and saying it's still a good idea now. What I did see when I was an analyst covering all these new innovators is they weren't getting any spending. So really good shit couldn't get spent. And I went to the CISOs. I said, why aren't you buying that? You know you need it. You know it would help your specific problem. And they said, well, I took it to the CIO, and they said, if we won't get fined, you don't get budget. So if it was on the chosen few, it got spending, and if it wasn't, it didn't. Now, some people had a little extra budget. They could buy one thing that wasn't on the chosen few. But I saw that as a pretty big economic disincentive, and that's why most of these vendors steered away from stopping or solving new problems, and they started to look very, very similar to the PCI list.
And when you think about it, though, we've been burying technologies for that entire decade. Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away in a former life, in 2003, I worked on a thing that smelled a lot like a web application firewall, XML firewall, that is better today than anything else you can buy today. And it's been